Legendary Passages, Episode 33, Medea and the Argonauts, There and Back Again, and the Story of Io, from the Library of Apollodorus. This time, the Argonauts land at Colchis. Princess Medea steals the Golden Fleece, and they make the long voyage home. Then we cover the family of Inachus, Argus and his eye-covered body, and Princess Io, who was changed into a cow. Medea and the Argonauts, a legendary passage from the Library of Apollodorus, translated by J.G. Frazer. The Argonauts now arrived among the Mariandynians, and there King Lycus received them kindly. There died Idmon, the seer, of a wound inflicted by a boar, and there too died Tiphys, and Ancaeus undertook to steer the ship. And having sailed past the Thermodon and the Caucasus, they came to the river of Phasis, which is in the Colchian land. When the ship was brought into port, Jason repaired to Aeetes, and setting forth the charge laid on him by Pelias, invited him to give him the fleece. The other promised to give it if, single-handed, he would yoke the brazen-footed bulls. These were 2 wild bulls that he had, of enormous size, a gift of Hephaestus. They had brazen feet, and puffed fire from their mouths. These creatures Aeetes ordered him to yoke and to sow dragon's teeth, for he had gotten from Athena half of the dragon's teeth which Cadmus sowed in Thebes. While Jason puzzled out how he could yoke the bulls, Medea conceived a passion for him. Now she was a witch, daughter of Aeetes and Medea, daughter of Ocean. And fearing lest he might be destroyed by the bulls, she, keeping the thing from her father, promised to help him to yoke the bulls and to deliver him to the fleece, if he would swear to have her to wife and would take her with him on the voyage to Greece. When Jason swore to do so, she gave him a drug, with which she bade him anoint his shield, spear, and body when he was about to yoke the bulls, for she said that, anointed with it, he could for a day be harmed neither by fire nor by iron. And she signified to him that, when the teeth were sown, armed men would spring up from the ground against him, and when he saw a knot of them, he was to throw stones into their midst from a distance, and when they fought each other about that, he was taken to kill them. On hearing that, Jason anointed himself with the drug, and being come to the grove of the temple, he sought the bulls, and though they charged him with flame of fire, he yoked them. And when he had sowed the teeth, there arose armed men from the ground, and where he saw several together, he pelted them unseen with stones, and when they fought each other, he drew near and slew them. But though the bulls were yoked, Aeetes did not give the fleece, for he wished to burn down the Argo and kill the crew. But before he could do so, Medea brought Jason by night to the fleece, and having lulled to sleep by her drugs the dragon that guarded it, she possessed herself of the fleece, and in Jason's company came to the Argo. She was attended too by her brother Aeetes, and with them the Argonauts put to sea by night. When Aeetes discovered the daring deeds done by Medea, he started off in pursuit of the ship, but when she saw him near, Medea murdered her brother, and cutting him limb from limb, threw the pieces into the deep. Gathering the child's limbs, Aeetes fell behind in the pursuit, wherefore he turned back, and, having buried the rescued limbs of his child, he called the place Tomi. But he set out many of the Colchian to search for the Argo, threatening that, if they did not bring Medea to him, they should suffer the punishment due to her. So they separated, pursued the search in diverse places. When the Argonauts were already sailing past the Eridanus River, Zeus sent a furious storm upon them, and drove them out of their course, because he was angry at the murder of Aeetes. And as they were sailing past the Aspertide Islands, the ship spoke, saying that the wrath of Zeus would not cease unless they journeyed to Ausonia, and were purified by Circe for the murder of Aeetes. So when they had sailed past the Lycurgian and Celtic nations, and had voyaged through the Sardinian Sea, they skirted Tyrrhenia and came to Aea, where they supplicated Circe and were purified. As they sailed past the Sirens, Orpheus restrained the Argonauts by chanting a counter-melody. Bootes alone swam off to the Sirens, but Aphrodite carried him away and settled him in Lily Balm. After the Sirens, the ship encountered Charpalus and Scylla and the Wandering Rocks, above which a great flame and smoke were seen rising. But Thetis with the Nereids steered the ship through them at the summons of Hera. Having passed by the island of Thrinacia, where are the kine of the sun, they came to Corcyra, the island of the Phaeacians, of which Alcinous was king. But when the Colchians could not find the ship, some of them settled at the Cyrenian mountains, and some journeyed to Illyria and colonized the Aspertide islands. But some came to the Phaeacians, and finding the Argo there, they demanded of Alcinous that he should give up Medea. He answered that if she already knew Jason, he would give her to him, but that if she were still a maid, he would send her away to her father. However, Aeetes, wife of Alcinous, anticipated matters by marrying Medea to Jason. Hence the Colchians settled down among the Phaeacians, and the Argonauts put to sea with Medea. Sailing by night, they encountered a violent storm, and Apollo, taking his stand on the Melantian ridges, flashed lightning down, shooting a shaft into the sea. Then they perceived an island close at hand, and anchoring there, they named it Anaph, because it had loomed up unexpectedly. So they founded an altar of radiant Apollo, and having offered sacrifice, they betook them to feasting, and 12 handmaids, whom Aeetes had given to Medea, jested merrily with the chiefs, whence it is still customary for the women to jest at the sacrifice. Putting to sea from there, they were hindered from touching at Crete by Talos. Some say that he was a man of the brazen race, others that he was given to Minos by Hephaestus. He was a brazen man, but some say that he was a bull. He had a single vein extending from his neck to his ankles, and a bronze nail was rammed home at the end of the vein. This Talos kept guard, running round the island thrice every day, wherefore, when he saw the Argo standing in shore, he pelted it as usual with stones. His death was brought about by the wiles of Medea, whether, as some say, she drove him mad by drugs, or, as others say, she promised to make him immortal, and then drew out the nail, so that all the ichor gushed out, and he died. But some say that Pelias shot him dead in the ankle. After tarrying a single night there, they put into Aegina to draw water, and a contest arose among them concerning the drawing of the water. Thence they sailed betwixt Euboea and Locris, and came to Colchis, having completed the whole voyage in 4 months. Now Pelias, despairing of the return of the Argonauts, would have killed Aeson, but he requested to be allowed to take his own life, and in offering a sacrifice, drank freely of the bull's blood, and died. And Jason's mother cursed Pelias and hanged herself, leaving behind an infant son, Promachus. But Pelias slew even the son whom she had left behind. On his return, Jason surrendered the fleece, but though he longed to avenge his wrongs, he bided his time. At that time he sailed with the chiefs to the isthmus and dedicated the ship to Poseidon, but afterwards he exhorted Medea to devise how he could punish Pelias. So she repaired to the palace of Pelias and persuaded his daughters to make mincemeat of their father and boil him, promising to make him young again by her drugs. And to win their confidence, she cut up a ram and made it into a lamb by boiling it. So they believed her, made mincemeat of their father, and boiled him. But Acastus buried his father with the help of the inhabitants of Colchis, and he expelled Jason and Medea from Colchis. They went to Corinth, and lived there happily for 10 years, till Creon, king of Corinth, betrothed his daughter Glauce to Jason, who married her and divorced Medea. But she invoked the gods by whom Jason had sworn, and after upbraiding him with his ingratitude, she sent the bride a robe steeped in poison, which when Glauce put on, she was consumed with fierce fire, along with her father, who went to her rescue. But Mamurus and Pheres, the children whom Medea had by Jason, she killed, and having got from the sun a car drawn by winged dragons, she fled on it to Athens. Another tradition is that on her flight she left behind her children, who were still infants, setting them as supplicants on the altar of Hera at the height, but the Corinthians removed them and wounded them to death. Medea came to Athens, and being there, married to Aegeus, bore him a son, Medas. Afterwards, however, plotting against Theseus, she was driven a fugitive from Athens with her son. But he conquered many barbarians and called the whole country after him Medea, and marching against the Indians, he met his death. And Medea came unknown to Colchis, and finding that Aeetes had been deposed by his brother Perses, she killed Perses and restored the kingdom to her father. Having now gone through the family of Deucalion, we have next to speak of that of Inachus. Ocean and Tiphys had a son Inachus, after whom a river in Argos is called Inachus. He and Medea, daughter of Ocean, had sons, Phaeonius and Aegialeus. Aegialeus having died childless, the whole country was called Aegialia, and Phaeonius, reigning over the whole land, afterwards called Peloponnese, begat Apis and Niobe by a nymph Telidece. Apis converted his power into a tyranny, and named the Peloponnese after himself Appia. But being a stern tyrant, he was conspired against and slain by Thalixion and Telchis. He left no child, and being deemed a god was called Sarpis. But Niobe had by Zeus, and she was the first mortal woman with whom Zeus cohabitated, a son Argus, and also, so says Agesilaus, a son Pelasgus, after whom the inhabitants of the Peloponnese were called Pelasgians. However, Hesiod says that Pelasgus was a son of the soil. About him I shall speak again. But Argus received the kingdom, and called the Peloponnese after himself Argos, and having married Evadne, daughter of Sturmion and Neaera, he begat Ecbasis, Pyrrhus, Epidaurus, and Cryasus, who also succeeded to the kingdom. Ecbasis had a son Agenor, and Agenor had a son Argus, the one who is called the All-Seeing. He had eyes in the whole of his body, and being exceedingly strong, he killed the bull that ravaged Arcadia, and clad himself in its hide. And when a satyr wronged the Arcadians and robbed them of their cattle, Argus withstood and killed him. It is said, too, that Echidna, daughter of Tartarus and Earth, who used to carry off passers-by, was caught asleep and slain by Argus. He also avenged the murder of Apis by putting the guilty to death. Argus and Ismene, daughter of Asopus, had a son, Iasus, who is said to have been the father of Io. But the annalist Castor and many of the tragedians allege that Io was a daughter of Inachus, and Hesiod and Agesilaus say that she was a daughter of Pyrrhon. Zeus seduced her while she held the priesthood of Hera. Being detected by Hera, he, by a touch, turned Io into a white cow, and swore that he had not known her. Wherefore Hesiod remarks that lovers' oaths do not draw down the anger of the gods. But Hera requested the cow from Zeus for herself, and set Argus, the all-seeing, to guard it. Pherecydes says that this Argus was a son of Arestor, but Asclepiades says that he was a son of Inachus, and Cecrops says that he was a son of Argus and Ismene, daughter of Asopus, but Agesilaus says that he was earthborn. He tethered her to the olive tree which was in the grove of the Mycenaeans. But Zeus ordered Hermes to steal the cow, and as Hermes could not do it secretly because Hyriax had blabbed, he killed Argus by the cast of a stone, whence he was called Argophantes. Hera next sent a gadfly to infest the cow, and the animal came first to what is called after her the Ionian Gulf. Then she journeyed through Illyria, and having traversed Mount Haemus, she crossed what was then called the Thracian Straits, but is now called after her the Bosphorus. And having gone away to Scythia and the Cimmerian land, she wandered over great tracts of land, and swam wide stretches of sea, both in Europe and Asia, until at last she came to Egypt, where she recovered her original form, and gave birth to a son Epaphus beside the river Nile. Him Hera besought the Curetes to make away with, and make away with him they did. When Zeus learned of it, he slew the Curetes, but Io set out in search of the child. She roamed all over Syria, because there it was revealed to her that the wife of the king of Byblos was nursing her son. And having found Epaphus, she came to Egypt, and was married to Telegonus, who then reigned over the Egyptians. And she set up an image of Demeter, whom the Egyptians call Isis, and Io likewise they called by the name of Isis.